You're watching News at Prime. Let's pick up on this now. Several civil society groups have taken the organization Operation Dudula and some government departments to court, accusing them of violating the constitution in their treatment of foreign nationals. In court today, the legal representative of the Socio-Economic Rights Institute was one of those arguing for a series of interdicts to tackle what he says is Operation Dudula's unlawful conduct. Advocate Jason Brickhill said the Home Affairs Department and the police have also failed to protect everyone living in South Africa. Let's take a listen.
Lord, the relief that we seek against Operation Dudula is principally set out in paragraph 5 of the draft order, and it's a series of interdicts. But it's necessary first to address the nature of the first respondent and its conduct. My Lord, we record that history and those events from paragraph 23, that since 2021, Operation Dudula emerged as one of the most visible and violent proponents of xenophobia, targeting foreign nationals and those perceived to be foreign. We make the point that Dudula means to force out, in isiZulu, and that this name captures its objective of expelling foreign nationals from South Africa regardless of their immigration status.
All right, let's expand on the developments there. Ziniko Mhlaba covering that story for us in court, and he joins us in studio this evening. Ziniko, good evening to you. The seriousness of the discussions around the treatment of foreign nationals. Advocate Brickhill talking on behalf of the organization SERI. How serious is this?
Well, Xoli, looking at the number of people, legal representatives who were in court today against Operation Dudula, I can tell you that reflects the seriousness in which this case is, but also what Operation Dudula is up against. Because they're up against local human rights organizations. You mentioned SERI, which is the leading legal team that's leading the main applicant in this case. And of course, then you've got the Human Rights Commission here in South Africa that is also part and parcel of that group, which is for the applicants. Then you've got Section 27. These are human rights organizations, and they've sent out legal representatives to argue on behalf of the applicant. And of course, they were detailing serious allegations. They were detailing serious offenses, which foreign nationals have been subjected to at the hands, allegedly, of Operation Dudula. So that's how serious the matter is. But what has been a problem for Operation Dudula, this case started back in May 2023. And of course, there was an application that was made first, which was to say, hey, court, we've got this situation. Can you at least for now protect the people who are submitting these papers, who are giving us evidence? And of course, the court did grant that order. So now we're dealing with part 2 of the order. The part 2 of this case now is focusing on asking the court to issue a direct order to Operation Dudula and government departments, specifically the Department of Home Affairs, the Department of Police, to say these departments have been failing to protect foreign nationals. So that's the seriousness of this matter. But what is not going to work for Operation Dudula, initially they didn't take this matter seriously. They didn't file responding arguments. They didn't file papers. And of course, the matter started today in terms of the actual hearings before the judge. And when we're about to start this morning, that's when one of the leaders of Operation Dudula say, hey, sir, can I say something, please? Because we have not made any legal representation here. We only knew about this yesterday. So can you just pause, give us space now? And of course, the judge did not entertain that, saying, China, this thing started back in 2023. 2024, we're in court. You can't tell me now, when we're about to start with the official hearings, that you didn't know about this. And of course, the other lawyers argued that actually they were aware. They just didn't entertain the legal process that was starting back then, and now it's too late for them. And then the judge made a ruling that from this point onward, you're not going to be part of these proceedings. We're going to deal with this matter in your absence. So that's how Operation Dudula is finding itself now in a very, very awkward and unfortunate position where they can't argue for themselves.
And I know that you have set up a particular soundbite for us to listen to. We'll pick up on the international element of the argument because there were also strong submissions in that regard. Let's take a listen to this first.
Operation Dudula has followed a common modus operandi. It begins with, and we set this out in paragraph 28 of our Headsman Order, it begins with inciting hatred on public platforms, either gatherings or on social media, blaming foreigners for all sorts of social ills. It then convenes gatherings, if it hasn't already done so, which ratchet up that conduct and are aimed at threatening and harassing foreign nationals. And what follows, my lord, is all of the conduct that I've then highlighted. Chasing people away from hospitals, threatening schools, evicting people or threatening their eviction, removing traders from stalls or threatening to do so, threatening shops, and further acts of violence, intimidation, harassment, and incitement.
Sure. So the international argument or the aspect of the international submissions to this, what are those and how strongly did that come through? And I'm asking this keeping in mind that you are saying Operation Dudula does not have lawyers in court to defend themselves. What about the Department of Home Affairs? Because they are not the only ones cited by these human rights organizations.
So the Department of Home Affairs does have legal representation. The Department of Police, the South African Police Service, they also have representation. However, they did not get to argue today because the focus was mainly on the applicants and the people who were calling for those orders. So we will be hearing from the state institutions tomorrow, specifically these two departments. To answer your question when it comes to the international interest in this particular case, we've got two international organizations and very credible international organizations who have taken upon themselves to make their own presentations before the judge. And one of those is the ICJ, the International Commission of Jurists. So this is the body that is home of judges globally, but also lawyers and advocates. They're saying that, well, South Africa has the responsibility, and South Africa has signed into various treaties that are meant to protect, immigrants across the globe. And we've seen South Africa playing a critical role in terms of fighting for human rights beyond its own borders. So it cannot be that we're talking about an Operation Dudula in South Africa that is violating, human rights of those who are not from South Africa. But their main problem is how the South African government is responding to these calls which have been made by these international organizations. So they're saying that by South Africa not acting, they are enabling the environment in which Operation Dudula is operating on. So we'll be hearing how then government is going to respond to that. But also the United Nations arm, which is responsible for defending human rights, is also in court, also making its own representation. They're also pointing out at government saying, you are not doing enough, but also they're telling some sections of the country's, constitution, which they believe when it comes to migration issues, it's very vague. It does not specifically, detail which department must take responsibility and to what extent.
It's a very emotive issue, Ziniko, because time and again we have marches in this country. In fact, there's a new organization. I think it's March for March, if I'm not mistaken. They were marching recently against foreign nationals, and I also know that there is a petition against the Helen Suzman Foundation, which they blame for protecting illegal foreign nationals, they say. So it's a very, very, very emotive issue right now. We'll see how this goes. All right, thank you for the time being, Ziniko Mhlaba, watching that space for us. Let's stay in the court.